Greetings and salutations, my fellow sovereigns. This is the Vocational Science of Freedom Wednesday night open roundtable. And we're just going to have open mic night tonight. Nothing too special. If no one wishes to table anything, then I will spend the majority of the hour answering Q&A from the Vocational Science of Freedom Gilded server, which is where you can ask any questions that you'd like at any time. All you have to do is just join the server for free. And that link is gilded.gg/VSOF. And it's located right on the front of the YouTube page. And it's also located in all the show notes for all of the platforms, whether that be Rumble, Odysee, or YouTube. Okay, so I'm going to have chat open, and everybody's welcome to take the floor if anybody has any questions. I think, Mr. King, you had a question before, so you can go ahead and ask it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just have going back to basics here. So we have our estate, and then we appoint everybody who's not in our house as a trustee, and then they would accept the offer to become a trustee if they start administering our estate. And I guess that would be called a performance contract or something to that effect, as you have mentioned, like an end user license agreement. But my question is I'm trying to get my head around what is the the entity. Is it actually the estate trust? In other words, the all caps name that we have now taken title back to, or do we actually create a trust, an express trust, a written trust, or is it just an implied trust? I'm just trying to get some clarity on that. There's always these things that still have a stickiness to them. So thanks for your answer.
There's a lot of different names for a lot of different things. Not every name on every document is always the same thing. The name of the estate, where it all starts, is the original warehouse receipt, which is the name that is on the birth certificate. I don't give a damn how it's capitalized or not. Whatever that name is the name of the estate that was registered. Now, from that, there are other things that get created from it, because that's the entire gross estate. And then what they do is they take some of the res of that estate, and just remember that the substantive definition of an estate is everything that a man owns in law. So that's your whole entire estate, your entire gross estate. And then they take some of the res, R-E-S, which means a thing, and they take some of the stuff, and then they will put it into things like constructive trusts, which is every single court case, or they will put it into I guess in a certain sense, you could consider Social Security kind of an express trust, but it's really more like a trust fund, sort of. So there's that, and then so every court case can have a different name. The Social Security number has a different name, usually, than the BC. Not always, but usually. And so, yeah, it depends on what exactly you're speaking of. Do we create anything? No, unless you want to. I mean, you can create a common law trust and put, some of your res of your estate in it, but that's something that you do after you've claimed your entire gross estate and you have specifically expatriated from the United States Federal Corporation. So the totality of the answer is it depends. So if you want specificity, or if you want me to clarify even further, give me a more clear question as to which part of the estate or res or thing or trust that you're talking about.
Well, let's say that somebody starts administering the estate without my authorization. Let's just say it's a judge, or let's say it's a prosecutor, and then I basically say that you're doing this against the will of the executor, and you're now a trustee. A trustee of what, though? I don't know if an estate can have a trustee or it has to be a trust that has a trustee. And what trust is that that I'm referring to?
No, an estate and or trust can have three. There's three working parts. So and here's the thing: if you want to think about it like this, okay, I see what you're getting at. What do you? Okay, so it's not an aspect of creation, I guess, as far as a paper entity is concerned, but you do have to realize that every single contract, just written contract, is a form of trust. Verbal agreements are a form of trust. So you do not have to have a trust structure in the way that you think about a trust for something to be a trust. Now, I see what you're getting at. So when they administer the estate, you say, hey, you're an appointed trustee. If you wish to be a bound trustee, then, feel free and start administering. So you're saying, where's the trust that they're a trustee of, is in a sense what you're saying, I think. So
yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So from that standpoint, if they're administering any part of the res of your estate, they can only do so lawfully in some sort of trust arrangement. Now, and guardianship is also a type of trust arrangement, which is kind of what they have us under the bus with until we do the doc set, because then we come of full age and we say, no, we're not an infant. We have claimed our entire gross estate and we have the capacity to handle our affairs. But guardianship is a form of trust. So what we're doing is we're saying, look, if you're going to touch anything of mine, it's instantaneously going to be under a trust agreement, but I am the one that is establishing the parameters of that agreement before you ever stick your hand in the cookie jar, which is why it's like a user end license agreement for software. You don't have to press enter, right? You don't have to start using the program. You can just back out and say, no, I don't want to install this, or no, I don't want to use this. I don't like what this user end license agreement says. I don't want to be bound to XYZ. I don't like arbitration, whatever you don't like about the contract. Okay, so they have the same capacity. So when you enter into a user and license agreement and start using their software, are you under a trust agreement? Yes, in a sense you are, because it established one with the performance contract, which is the same thing. And so it's not a structured trust, meaning you didn't come along and you didn't create a trust and you didn't go through and either jump through all the hoops that you would have to jump through regarding, equity jurisdiction or any other jurisdiction, whatever, to establish a trust on paper. And then you say, set up a bank account and and all that other stuff. You don't have to do all that. What you're doing is you're saying that if you touch my stuff, you are under contract to me. And this is the binding contract that you're under. Now, of course, for this to happen, you have to serve all of these people pretense before they try to climb over your wall. Because in a sense, if you think about this, like, let's take an analogy of a sovereign in his castle. Okay. So you're a king in your castle. Well, let's just say you're a king on your land. Let's say you haven't built a castle yet. So you have your estate. It's your land. It's everything you own. You could just put up a fence and put up signs and say, do not enter, or do not administer, or do not trespass. You could do that, which is lawful notice. However, if everybody that lives around you thinks that the land in your estate is something that they can tread over or walk over or have easement through anytime they want to, and they've been quite used to doing this for, say, 150 fucking years, well, then it gets really difficult to actually make sure that people stay the hell off of your estate because they don't even know where the bounds are anymore. And that's what we're doing with the VSOF Status doc set. We're saying, look, we don't care how stupid you attorneys may have become. We don't care how dumb the Black Robe Priests of El may have become over the centuries. This is what the law says. This is what the common law says. This is what you're bound to. This is what foundational documents say, so on and so forth. Anybody who's done the doc set or has a current version of it, you already read it. You know what's in there. particularly in the Declaration of Nationality, because there's over 30 statuses that are derived directly from foundational documents and the common law. And so anyway, the point being is that an offer must exist prior to one being bound to anything. So what I mean by that, if you walked on, say you went to a county park and you walked and there was no fence, and you just were, and say it was a big, massive county park, and you're just walking along and there's no fence, and all of a sudden you're next to somebody's house and their dog like starts barking at you, and you're like, what the hell? And the guy comes out, he's like, get the hell off my property. What the hell are you doing? And pulls out a gun. Okay. I didn't see any sign, buddy. I didn't even see any fence. My apologies. I don't mean to be here. I mean no harm. I'll just retreat back to the direction that I came from, right? I had no warning. I had no notice as to that I was trespassing. I didn't even know. So am I technically in the wrong? No, he is, because he should have put up that line in the sand, if you will, to say, nope, this is now private property. Okay. So take that scenario and that analogy with the king and the property and all of this, the aspect of you being the one that's on the land. And so they're used to trespassing. They're used to walking across it all the time because they think they can walk over us anytime they want to. They don't know where the bounds are anymore. They literally don't understand where the bounds are of law anymore. They have no fucking idea. None. Zero. I've talked to multiple attorneys in my life. They don't know where it is. I've even talked to professors of law before. They don't know where it is. They don't realize it. They don't understand the absolute basic aspects of natural law and common law. They don't get it. They think if it's not in the statute, it doesn't exist. So anyway, continue with the scenario. So you're the king, you're on your land, somebody comes across, but this time you've got signs up. And not only do you have signs up, you have a moat up around. So they'd have to actually cross the moat, which is something that's difficult to do. It's just basically like a deterrent. And then maybe say after the moat, you have 10-foot high walls with signs on them that say, if you enter, you shall be killed. Right? Or maybe make it nice and say, no entry without prior agreement and the seal of the king shall be a penalty of death. Something like that, right? So you put that on your castle walls. Okay. So they had the notice when they came onto your land that it was private property. They saw the moat. They decided to cross the moat anyway, even though it was difficult. And then they see the wall. Now, if they end up on the other side of your wall in your castle after all of that notice, they are subject to your law, no matter what your law is. I don't give a fuck. I don't care if your law says that the guy has to do 2,000 jumping jacks and he has to stay there until he's done 2,000 jumping jacks and he can leave. If that's your law, that's fine. Whatever you think the penalty should be for that trespass. If you think death should be the penalty for that trespass, that's your law, that's your right, that's your estate. You write the law. Contract creates law. Period. Full stop. So, what do you want your contract to be? What do you want your law to be? So that's your estate. You have the right to determine whatever law you wish to regarding everything that you own in your estate. All of it. So did that analogy help? Because when that guy comes across, he enters into contract with that king, with that sovereign. He also enters into a trust relationship with that sovereign as well, because if he, say, is on the sovereign's land and the sovereign consents to it, meaning to be on the land or whatever else they may be doing, then again, they're in a trust arrangement with that sovereign. They're only on the land of that sovereign under good behavior because the sovereign trusts them to be there under good behavior. The second that they're not behaving, they can get the fuck off.
So in essence, our doc set properly notice to these people becomes sort of an express trust agreement.
It becomes an express trust agreement. It's a contract. It's a performance contract. It is a declaration of law. It's a declaration of an ordinance regarding all manner of your estate. It is also a fee schedule. Well, these are all things that are in the Vocational Science Freedom Status docs. So there's also a fee schedule that says, hey, if you come upon me, you've had notice that this is what I charge in lawful money for the fees for you to use my estate. So it's all of those things.
Yeah, got it. I get it. Yeah, I got clarity on that now. Yeah, I just thought that we might have to have a real trust to make a trustee, but I see it's a performance agreement is what it is. By them acting, they step into it. I guess the only thing that would be prohibitive, it was something that was against the common law. Like,
right. See, until we do this, until an infant claims back their estate, they have no title. So if you have no title, you have no capacity, you have no standing, because there's nothing for you to stand on. You don't have title, you don't have standing. If you don't have standing, you don't have access to the common law. You don't have access to something like being able to file a tort, because a tort is a harm at common law. You're stuck in the jurisdiction of like the statute of uses in trusts and equity, and to a certain extent maritime amity. You can't access the common law. You are barred from accessing the common law until you claim title back. And they know this. I mean, well, at least I shouldn't say the current ones know this. The ones that set up this system, the ones that fought for hundreds and hundreds of years in what I call the wars of law between Roman civil law, English common law, the law merchant, and all of the courts that had these political fights between them for hundreds, thousands of years, mostly in England. At least that's where we get most of our history from it. Most people don't realize how long this fight's been going on, and most people don't realize who is basically winning at the moment. Not that they've completely won, because they can never actually fully win unless and until the totality of the common law is abandoned forever by everyone. And as long as I take breath, at least that's not going to happen, because if I continue it, then it's continued. Because the brilliant thing about a republic is one man with the law, and a republic is the majority. That's how it's supposed to be. But
yeah, there's a guy, I don't know if you've heard of him. His name is Dave Jose, and he's been serving these notices. And I guess his group served one to the Supreme Court and was asking for a point of authority on sovereign immunity. And I guess there was just a case they ruled on where they are denying sovereign immunity, blanket sovereign immunity to government workers.
Oh, so they've been doing that. Yeah, they've been doing that for a while. The states even, well, I specifically Wisconsin. I remember Wisconsin threw all of their state workers under the bus like 10 years ago. Maybe not that long, about 5. If CLF3 were on, he'd remember when that bill was passed. Anyway, they specifically said, yeah, we're not going to protect you. And the private for-profit courts have no immunity because they have separate purses from the state, which does not make them qualify for immunity under the 11th Amendment. So you can sue any one of these private for-profit courts out of existence. I mean, if you really wanted to, but you'd better come with all the information necessary for a jury to completely realize what's going on, what they are, and be able to prove it, which is not that difficult, but you would want to be able to do that before you kind of step down that road. But yeah, the governments just don't care anymore. They're throwing all their minions under the bus. Because here's the thing: when empires fall, the ones that have the most power, all they can do is throw all of their minions, all of the people that are under them, smaller than them, under their authority, at the mob to try to put some sort of barrier between them and the mob, because if they don't, the mob's going to kill them. That's what happens at the end of every empire. It never changes. So
it seems like we're heading into that direction really rapidly right now. And so let's say I get pulled over and I have the ordinance of the estate with me, and I would say, hey, listen, before we proceed, you've been noticed, and you hand that to him. And then if he proceeds to administer me at that point, even though it's right there on the spot, is that still valid?
I can make an argument for and against that. The argument for it would be he comes up and he starts demanding contracts, right? License and registration. That's what he's looking for. He's looking for contract. You can say hamburgers and oranges because they usually don't ask it in a complete sentence. They just say driver's license or registration. They don't even ask a question. They just presume that the contract's there, and it's also a sneaky way to say it too, because if they don't actually ask it in the form of a question and you acquire anything or start talking about either one of those two things, you're basically admitting to the existence of one of those two contracts. Where I just simply say I don't have any contracts with the corporate state. But anyway, to your point, is it proper notice? Yes, it's proper notice because you've given it to them at first instance. However, they're going to operate under the presumption that those at least those two pre-existing contracts exist, and they're going to operate under the presumption that you were using the roadways as a place of business. They don't understand the word driver means one employed under the U.S. Code. They have probably never, ever looked up or read a court case regarding the right to travel, and they've probably never seen a Supreme Court case on the matter, and they've probably never seen anyone properly argue the point to beat a traffic ticket. So does the cop still have kind of control over the situation regarding honor and dishonor? Yes. Even regarding due process? Yes, in a sense. Now, the way to beat it, or the way to make sure that that you were over the top of him, would be if you had served the entity for who he works for prior to him pulling you over. Now, if this is a sheriff's deputy, that'd be serving the sheriff's office. If it's a local municipality or some cop shop, some damn city, it would have been serving the chief of police or whoever the hell that police department is. If it's some county ordinance idiot, whatever, then it's serving the county. If it's DNR, then it's serving DNR, whatever. Whatever entity it is, they need to be served first. Now, there's argument to be made that if you serve the Secretary of the state republic of which you're lawfully domiciled, that you ipso facto basically serve every single corporation in that state. Now, there's some law in Texas that would sort of make that true, but I say it's always safer to serve every entity that could possibly come at you or come over the top of you to protect you totally, to just get it done and to get all of the major ones out of the way. So you take care of the whole state, the whole county, and the whole feds kind of all at once. Then smaller corporations or municipalities or cop shops, whatever, can be done on a secondary basis if you feel the necessity to do so. But if they have notice, and notice to principal is notice to agent is notice to principal sort of thing. If you have noticed their principal with the entire doc set, then you don't have to talk to them at all. One of them comes up to you, you know that you served that entity, you instantaneously say to them, your corporation, your agency, your whatever they are, your sheriff has been served with a document which bars you from doing what you think you're about to do, and also puts you under contract. Now, I highly suggest that you contact your sheriff, or I highly suggest that you contact your legal department, or I highly suggest you contact, whoever the hell it is you're talking to, the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, whatever, whoever you're talking to, what would be their higher up, the one that actually got served. That's the one that you tell them to go talk to, because they're an agent of that principal. And since the principal has been served and no argument's been made, right? Because it's not like I don't put in all the doc sets. Hey, if you got any beef about this, or you want to argue this point, or you want to have a discussion about this as to what is contained herein, well, you have so many days to do so. Now, I don't put people under the complete bus like some people try and do and say, that you agree to everything in here 100% if you don't disagree with it. I don't put things down in paper like that. One, that's ridiculous. And two, it's not honorable. So the best thing to do is just say, this is what the law says. I've done all these things. I've made these claims. I'm the sole lawful heir and executor of my estate. And I'm in a common law jurisdiction. And I don't have any contracts with the corporate state, because after you get done with your doc set, you don't. They all get wiped away. Every single contract with the corporate state gets wiped away. Now, if you want to specifically, individually go and knock down each and every contract, you're very welcome to do so. And I do suggest that people do knock down certain contracts, like the voter registration, because the voter registration is one that throws you into a whole bunch of presumptions that I highly suggest that people go and exit themselves from. I don't have a process for it because every county is different. And basically you just go in and say, I demand to be removed from the voter registration, and I want a screenshot proving that you've done so. Basically, that's it. And if you don't have any contracts with them, and the only thing out there is an offer of contract from you, well, who's now in power? And that's what the Republic was supposed to be anyway. I mean, if you really think about it from a standpoint of constitutionality and the creation of constitutions, we created this thing, the people created this thing that the states had to come along and agree to in order for it to be a go. And it did, they did, it did, it was a go. And that's now the contract. Now, some people argue against the Constitution like being a contractual document. And in a certain sense, I mean, it's strictly a contractual document, I agree. What did it establish? It established an estate. Yeah, strange enough. I mean, anybody doesn't get that or know that, I highly suggest that everybody watch the Bernice Speakman videos that I put up, the whole playlist. So if you go to playlist on Odysee and go down and go to Bernice Speakman, the legacy, I'll just grab you guys the URL real quick and throw on the chat. Anyway, what I highly suggest everybody do this or watch this is so that you understand that the Constitution is established an estate. And you also understand how we need to get back to the common law, and that the aspect of mortmain has been what has been killing this republic, of which Bernice talks about all the way through those lectures. So yeah, they agree by verifiable acquiescence. That's a pretty good way to say it. That's a good way to lay it out. How about Department of Social Security? Same thing, if that's indeed what you mean, Rounds. That, yeah, Social Security contract. The Social Security contract, however, I will say this. There is a form, or at least I had the form at one time. I don't know that I have it anymore because it probably changed, the current one, that allows you to remove yourself from the Social Security contract. You can also remove yourself from a Social Security contract by another way, even if you can't find the form for it to specifically remove it, is that if you didn't ever sign for your Social Security contract, meaning it like happened when you were underage, which is how it happens to a lot of people, like your parents signed for it, whatever, then you can remove yourself from the contract because you can say that you never consented after you'd come of full age to the contract and do it that way. Now, are they going to go along with that? Yeah. I've heard that sometimes people can do that and get it nullified, but I don't know anybody personally. It's been kind of a hearsay thing, but I know that the form does exist to just simply remove yourself from the contract. So,
would Social Security be a government benefit? Because it sounds to me like it's an insurance contract.
It's a contract for benefits. Yeah, it's a contract for benefits, and you have the right to those funds back, and which is why people can go to there's only one place where you can sue out your Social Security contract, and that's the United States Federal Court of Claims. And again, I've just heard people that have heard that people can and have done that. I do not know what that entails. I do not have a template for that, but if you went to the clerk of the court for the United States Court of Claims, then you could probably find a case of which someone did it and then just basically copy it. Because yeah, it's Social Security is a contract for benefits. The other thing that it is too, in a messed up sense, is that everyone who, and I can't remember the USC for this, so I apologize and forgive me. I might be able to find it later, but one part of the USC says that those who have a deferred retirement program from the United States are deemed to be federal personnel. Now, okay, so what is Social Security? Well, Social Security is definitely that. So in a sense, I had the argument made to me, and I tend to agree with it, that anyone who has a Social Security contract is considered federal personnel, and so then therefore is subject to the jurisdiction thereof under the 14th Amendment by consent. So do you need to get rid of it? Yeah. Those who are collecting from Social Security, yeah, your only way to really get back what you need to get back out of it, if you indeed need to do that. And of course, that's the trap with all of it. No one should ever have placed themselves in a position where they were depending on the filthy United States federal corporation to live in their later years. But I mean, no offense to anybody that is in that position. I'm just saying we're all supposed to be self-reliant here. So it's about suing out and getting your money back and then basically closing the account. So yeah, it's removing yourself from the Social Security contract. And how do you get out from under it, Green Smasher? Well, like I said, there was a form that I had at one time that showed how to remove ourselves from Social Security. I highly suggest that, and anybody finds it again, or maybe I'll do a little bit of digging around. I might be able to come up with it. I might still have it on my computer, at least what the form was. But if anybody finds it, make sure that you put the link to it into the Social Security Committee, which is Committee 13, Social Security Issues and Removal. Make sure you put it either into the chat for that or put it into the forum for termination. Or wait, looks like, hold on. Is this SS termination? Marissa posted something. He said he didn't fill out or have knowledge of the 521 form, but my friend recently got a response from the Social Security Administration after telling them to cancel Social Security account, as is done in the Errant Sovereign's Handbook. That's nothing. I've never heard of that book before. But so possibly there's a letter. So there's a letter in the Social Security Committee that Amaru put up. And I guess maybe the form is 521, maybe. Oh, I already had it someplace. Okay. I must have put it in chat instead of the. Oh, okay. I had it in chat. Okay, I should have put it in the. Somebody do me a favor and put it in the forum because I don't want to lose it in the chat stream. I forgot that I literally dropped the form in there. Okay, yeah. So Viper put the link to where I had actually had it. So yeah, you have to. Again, it's all about contracts. It's all about contracts and consent. Because what did Jefferson say? Government derives its just powers from the consent of the governed. Well, what is consent? Consent is contract. Consent is agreement. Consent is submitting an application for registration. That's all consent. Because all of it, remember, is all an aspect of your will. And you guys really, 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 really need to go rewatch the first episode that I did for the, and I know it was a long playlist that we did, but the treatise on the law of an American administration. You really need to go back and listen just to the first class. You don't have to listen to the whole reading of all of it. That whole first section is all about will. And you guys have to get it through your head that every single thing that happens in law is about your will. All of it. That's why every single status doc is what? Is a continuation of our will. That's how I've written it. It has to be written like that. Because what they're doing is they're probating our estates. Why? Because you don't have a will. It's intestate. Your estate is intestate and then presumed to be under the capacity of administration of these black robe priests of El from all these presumptions, whether death or infancy or whatever, or being federal personnel, being subject to the jurisdiction thereof under the 14th Amendment, being an enemy combatant. take your fucking pick. There's so many of them. I can't even keep them all straight because I know there's more than 32 because there was one day several years ago where I wrote them all down, just every single presumption I could think of, and I came up with 32 of them off the top of my head without even honestly concentrating on it. Lamp says, if you nullify the contracts and close the accounts, can you get the money back from credit card memberships, cards, any contracts they benefited from? Same general process. What do you think? Everybody that's had stuff done with the doc set, the accounts usually just disappear. Meaning, I mean specifically like credit card stuff. I'm not talking about bank accounts per se. Well, not to say that a credit card isn't a bank account. But the gentlemen that I know that have served like credit card companies and credit card agencies, or I guess I shouldn't say agency, credit card divisions of certain corporations, like Lowe's comes to mind, they have gotten their accounts ghosted, meaning it like when they went back to check the account, it's like the account never existed. It literally vanished. So no, you wouldn't get the credit, but you wouldn't have any debt either. So, and when you do something like that, what you want to serve, who you want to serve is the registered agent for the credit card division of whatever corporation you're dealing with. Viper asks, can you briefly cover the idea of a potential visual roadmap concerning the challenges we face after the doc set, i.e. living in the private public? Yeah, I mean, that's a really long discussion, Viper. That's probably something I'd have to cover in a whole Saturday Civics and Sovereignty hour. That's almost an all-day class kind of question, honestly. And I covered some of it in the Settlement of Our Estates class. But I had the thought to make a class very much like that. See, Viper, when you have a question that's like that big, you should put it into the suggestions room, okay? Put it into the suggestions room and say, hey, Zen, can you please make an all-day class on this topic or whatever? And then I can, actually sit down and go, okay, that's a totality of what I can do for a whole class. So I'm just going to check Q&A. And anybody's welcome to take the floor. When I'm reading Q&A, though, I can't read chat at the same time, so I was just going to kind of flip through here and see if there's anything that I hadn't responded to yet.
Yes, and if you could explain just a little bit more on the importance of serving the full doc set versus serving up the, just the ordinance and maybe a few of the documents. I know to the Secretary of State for the U.S. and your domicile state, I've done the full doc set, but the others, it's a lot of paperwork. So maybe just touch on that a bit if you would.
Yeah, I think if you're short of funds, or the best thing to do is to hit up your three major government creatures, okay? The feds, the state, and the county. So the minimal for each of that would be the Secretary of State of both feds and state, which pretty much takes care of like all of them for minimum, technically done. And then county, you have county sheriff. I would definitely create a separate letter for the county sheriff and be like, hey, by the way, this is nothing threatening. I'm just establishing, our relationship, and I've studied law for a decade, and, make it a nice letter to the sheriff and just, be nice about it. And I realize that you are the top common law executive officer in the county, and I thank you for your service. And there may come a time where I need to convene a grand jury, and I hope and expect your cooperation when that time comes. Something like that. Just put him in his place, but at the same time, be nice about it. So Secretary of State, yes, definitely. Feds, state, and then sheriff is, if you have to do one in the county, do the sheriff. Second one I'd hit in the county would be the chief judge of the county, whoever that may be. There's always one chief judge, because technically there's only one court in every county. They may say, oh, this is such and such court. This is the court. This is divorce court. This is traffic court. This is la, 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 whatever. Right. But technically, there is only one court in every county. So if you hit the chief judge, pretty much court is served. You can also, if you want to double up, you can also serve the court administration, whoever that may be. So serve court administration. That takes care of the whole private for profit problem thing anyway. And then if you're coming in and you want to, or you have to open a court of record for some reason, at least the chief judge then knows, who the fuck you are, and that he's probably seen the contract before that you're probably going to come in and adjudicate against somebody else. So he should be well aware of what it says already. So there's that. And then if a credit card company is really coming down on you, do you serve the whole doc set? No. Just serve the KW, maybe seal notice, probably fee schedule and ordinance. Unless your employer or whoever credit card person starts asking you questions like, are you a citizen of the United States? La, 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 la. Well, okay, then some declaration of nationality too. So, and service on IRS commissioner. Somebody asked this in chat. Not chat, but in Q&A. Emery said, today I was able to finally acquire an estate EIN over the internet and got the EIN notice immediately after electronically. Yes, that's how it happens. I also recorded the EIN correction letter and sent the IRS Cincinnati, Ohio, a certified copy by registered mail with return receipt. Okay, good. By the way, if anybody doesn't have that, the EIN correction letter is something that I have. And if you do the EIN, if you get your estate EIN electronically, as he did over the IRS website, what you want to do is send this letter off to them. Basically what it does is just make sure and corrects everything and retells them again that you're the executive of the state and a few other things and so on and so forth. Now soon I'm going to have a sheriff deputy serve the commissioner of the IRS, Danny Werfel, with the doc set, ordinance of state, and a certified copy of the EIN correction letter. Okay, yep, that's all. Yep, that'd take care of it. I'll most likely have him served while he's at work. But I'd like his house address to the deputy as well as name so they can complete the process. Has anyone had service on the IRS commissioner? No, I have not. I'm not sure how you track down his home address. There's probably a few websites you might be able to peel it off of, but you probably got to pay him some money to be able to find it. The IRS commissioner would be wiped off of every regular scheduled programming. For anything that's normally public, you'd have to probably go and pay one of these like private websites, these types of websites that can look up those people. Then Shipper said the sheriff should be able to get his address himself. It's normally, yeah, the sheriff should be able to get behind those firewalls. You can write down the complete process of obtaining a separate EIN number for your state and post it here. Yeah, Green, we have that information, but it's not in this particular Q&A. It's in the committees as well. I believe it should be under Social Security. Or sorry, not Social Security. It should be under IRS. In the IRS committee. I believe I had that in there. Let me check the form real quick. EIN estate number information. I think, did I post it in here? Yeah, the correction letter's in there. So you just go to IRS, go to the IRS committee, committee 12, go to the IRS forum, and then click on EIN estate number information. That's where I put the correction letter. So it's already in there. So that's that. And then this is still in the same thread. This is kind of like another separate question somebody else asked. They asked, what about the 4 probate questions? County where a state is probated, state territory, date, a state created, funded, probated, closing month of accounting year. Oh, actually so they are referring to the EIN questions. And then Amora actually laid it out in here. Anyway, he's got a 1 through 8 to follow exactly what he did to get it to work. Because honestly, it's changed too many times. Literally, the IRS like kind of keeps fucking with it on their website to get it to go through automatically. But I know plenty of people have done it completely and gotten it emailed to them, the letter and the number emailed to them momentarily after like putting the thing in, because it's all done It's all done by computers now. Nobody even checks it anymore. So as long as you get past the computer, bam, you automatically get the letter. So when serving Secretary of State and Department of what is that? DOS. What's DOS, Viper? Department of State? Secretary of State, Department of State? Is that what you mean? Anyway, does that put the judiciary everywhere as our trustee? Federally, no, because it's a separate branch government. So Secretary of State is the executive branch. If you wanted to slap the entire federal court system, then that would be the Supreme Court of the United States of America. I would also hit the Supreme Court of the District of Columbia, just to be safe. And then the what? Would you have to serve each district? Yeah. I would serve the court administrator of the district, the federal district that, well, not that we're in federal districts, but you get the point, of whatever district would be blanket federal jurisdiction over your domicile. That's what I would serve if I was going to be completely thorough about it and make sure that all the Fed courts had made sure that they had due process done. So that if they ever tried to come over that wall into your castle, well, they know the penalty. So let me see if there's any other questions. I can just click through and kind of see if there's anything anybody didn't answer. Okay, signing documents that have your birth certificate name. If you receive court paperwork that contains your upper and lowercase name, should you modify that document using the given name hyphenated with the colon and last name, or acknowledge the name but sign it with the name above? Okay, well, it depends if the court paperwork. See, the court paperwork is going to establish a constructive trust, because that's what pretty much every court case is. I've never seen a court document mailed to anyone in an upper and lower case, but I'm not saying that can't happen. If it does happen, I would definitely just reply with, it appears as though you're attempting to contract with the executor of this estate. I need to know who you are. If you're attempting to administer the estate, or if say it this way, if this is an attempt to administer the estate, please notice public record number, 123 ABC at such and such county recorder's office. Fuck you and have a nice day. Then they have to go read it. So you can do that however you want to, but you can be nice about it, or you can be as asshole about it as you want to. But just remember that a sovereign's law is very much determined by the regalness of the sovereign. Put it that way. I think you know what I'm getting at. It's your law, your dominion, and the ruling of your dominion is seen by others and is judged in and of itself. Now, do they have any power to determine for you what you do with your own dominion? No, not my point. My point is that no man is an island. So how you conduct your law, how you conduct yourself, it must show the highest decorum at all times. And if you do, then they'll stay away from you, because they realize that they are dealing with a sovereign and not some infant, some dead man, some trustee, or some federal personnel. And I can't think of anybody better that embodies that currently on the server than Mr. Amaru Anka. He's done court cases. He's literally just gotten the court to just give up by verbally speaking in court about who he is, what's going on. It's about being honorable and about being regal and about understanding your sovereignty and acting like a real sovereign and not a crazy king, who wants to cut everybody's head off. So that doesn't really get you anywhere.
Yeah, I'd say more than anything, our actions prove our status.
Yeah, exactly. And your interaction with other people with them, whoever them are, it shows also that you're not trying to, nor do you have to prove anything to them. That's kind of the whole point in most of this. And if they see you acting like that, like you don't have to prove anything to them. They're the ones that have to prove something to you, but you're very relaxed and in control about it. That speaks volumes as to the fact that you know who you are. So, and when you start going off of that, when you start going off the reservation, as they say, that's when they start trying to pull you farther and farther off of who and what you are, pull you in farther away from your law until you either get overly angry or they, that's why cops always try and escalate everything. Same idea. They're trying to pull you into another jurisdiction because they don't have any control over you and yours. So, okay. So so Mr. King said, served my estate EIN correction letter and got a letter back from the IRS saying I no longer have to file at 1041. Okay, good. Yeah, anything, by the way, when you guys get stuff back from the IRS or, letters, not to say that you have to make everything public, I'm not saying that, but if you could do me and the whole rest of the Vocational Science of Freedom community a favor, please share your stories with what you did. Please make a clear timeline as to what happened in what order, and say you sent off X and the IRS sent back Z, 2 weeks later, or whatever it is. And keep a clear timeline as to what you do, who you've served the doc set with, what was their response time, who have you served in what order, blah, 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 blah. Was there any letters back? What did you do with the IRS? What did you do with the court? Keep good timelines of everything. And then you can post your timeline. And you can work on it at home, and then you can just post it one time, and you don't have to worry about, sitting here ungilded and trying to type it out all at once. It's something that happens and gets created over long periods of time. But with that good record keeping, you're keeping records of your house. Your house is in good order because you keep good records of what happens to the res of your house. So when you do that, then you can share that information with other houses, and then they can become stronger. That's what makes a strong society. And that's why this republic was created, so that all of us could do that and rise up together and protect our freedoms from those who would attempt to take them. So we're coming up on an hour now. Is there any last final questions or comments that anybody would like to make for this evening?
I want to thank you for what you're doing. It's awesome.
You're welcome. And I hope everybody takes advantage of the information that we have here. And all of the major classes are on all the platforms for free. And we will be having monthly paid classes this year. I have curriculum set up for almost all the months, so we'll get it going. Do we need to process serve them or register mail serve them? Who's them? Who are you talking about, Green? Who's them? Got to define your terms. Local government. Yeah, process serve is always good for any government entity. Process serve, that means you always get your process service affidavit back from your process server, whether it was just some PI that you paid to go do it, or whether you had the sheriff serve some of these people, or whether it was your buddy who just turned 18 and you think it's a good idea for him to start learning civics lessons. Go have him serve the sheriff. That should get some fear out of him. Whoever it is, doesn't matter, because then you get your process service affidavit. And once you have your process service affidavit for all of your various different entities, you put that in a separate folder for the Vocational Science of Freedom total folder, and each little folder inside it is federal government, state government, local government. And then you put it into your local government folder and you say X was served on such and such a date, and here's my process service affidavit. So you just start checking off the list. And I do have a checklist. It's in the handbills, but you can make that checklist as long as you want it to be. Like I said, I would do the minimum of what I stated tonight as far as Fed, state, and local. So if you want to, I mean, if you want to have, and the question is, can we have practice sessions on holding our own court ungilded? We can do that. We need a few actors. We need to have a judge. We need to have a prosecutor. We need to have a defendant. And if you want to get really elaborate, we could have a special master on each side, and we could have a jury. So it depends how specific you want to get. And yes, John, we do have a template for the EIN correction letter. Like I said earlier, it is in the committee under IRS forum. I'll just back up. I'll just grab you the link real quick. It's in that thread, John. You can get the correction letter. Yeah, anybody can be a prosecutor. Anyway, we can flip roles all we want. I mean, because I don't want to sit here and be judge all the time. In fact, I don't want to be judge at all. I'd rather be the defendant. I think you guys probably learn a lot more if I was the defendant. Probably. But depends. Depends what you're throwing at me. So, yeah, so he just dropped it right there too. Yep. Just make sure, guys, whatever you do drop in class, make sure that it is redacted, because you don't want to accidentally dox yourself to anybody else, because obviously these classes do get recorded and we do post them. So, will I set a day for this? If you want to do it, you can organize it. If you want me to make a committee for it, I can. Mock court, moot court committee, or we can do it for. Could do it for next roundtable, which would be the 28th, because I'll be doing the reading for the Great Taking for the 24th. I mean, we could do it next open roundtable if you want. And if you want, then we can, if that's what you want to do, or if that's what you want to set it up, then I can set that. I can reset that in calendar just after we get done here. So I'll just make a note in it to say mock court. And then see how many people show up, and we'll just play and figure out how we want to do it. Because I don't even have necessarily an organizational, no specificity to the organization. Yeah, I think it's just something we just bounce around with. I guess what I'll come up with, is just a set of rules that are, basically following court. And I'll say, okay, guys, this is what we got to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, blah, blah. And it depends on what jurisdiction you want to learn too. I mean, there isn't a whole hell of a lot of argument in common law. It's pretty much all done by paperwork. I mean, we could follow criminal procedure of some state if you wanted to do a criminal thing. We could follow civil procedure of some state if you wanted to do a civil thing. We can follow the rules as specific as you want for each jurisdiction. I mean, we could hold federal court, or we could hold appeals for California, or we could hold court of record for Texas, whatever you want to do. I don't care, but it could be as narrow as you want, or as broad as you want. Or we can kind of do what they do, which is run every single jurisdiction at once and just make it up as we go. I mean, I don't know how much of a education that would be, but probate, I would even have to look up some of the rules for probate if I really wanted to do that correctly. Because probate court's also a lot of stuff that's just by paperwork and rules and who files what first and la 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 la. There's some real weird rules for the probate court. But, well, it is. I mean, everything is run through probate from the standpoint of that's what they're doing as far as the administration of the estate. Do they follow the rules of probate court? No, they don't. They change those based upon whatever they're doing. So if it's criminal, even though it's not criminal, because they call it a quasi-criminal procedure, then they'll follow the criminal rules for whatever state corporation it is. But they're not even real criminal rules, because a true criminal rules of court would be a common law court of record with a grand jury indictment. That would be proper criminal rules, criminal procedure, instead of this quasi-criminal garbage in the statutes that they now have all the state levels. Because if you ever read those, you find out very quickly that the defendant doesn't have that many rights. Certainly doesn't tell you what you can do, what you should do. So, okay, so yeah, we can play around with the idea of running a court next time we have open roundtable. Because next class will be Saturday Civics and Sovereignty. So, Judge, okay, so if we're doing a defense lawyer and a jury, then that would be a quasi-criminal matter, or do you actually want to have it be like a court of record? Because if it's a court of record, then you really do want to have 12 people that decide both the facts and the law. And you could really goof around with it too if you wanted to. I mean, meaning that the jury knows that they decide both the facts and the law. And then the prosecution and defense just puts on the record whatever they have for facts and evidence. And then bam, bam, bam. But if we're going to do this the way, we'll have to come up with a scenario, meaning you can't create the plot of a moot court on the fly. You have to have the scenario laid out first, and then you can do it. So I think we should have fun just coming up with as many scenarios as we want to for this. Excuse me, because we can keep doing it over and over. So, I mean, running different scenarios. I mean, you can even run the same scenario with multiple different people. So one time, some guy's a judge, another guy's a prosecutor, and so on and so forth. But yeah.
No, I was saying if you actually tried to do like a proper knowledge sitting on the jury where you actually understand that you judge both the facts as well as the law, it would wind up a lot more like 12 Angry Men, where most of the jurors would basically go against you and possibly wind up hanging.
Yeah, and that one guy says, nope, not doing this. And then, yep. And now, and of course, in that scenario, he persuaded the others to come around based upon the evidence presented, which is what you're supposed to do. Not to say that's not a correct way of, showing a story about what can happen in a jury room. But, yeah, if you do it really like that, it's not just like 12 Angry Men, because it would be like 12 Angry Men, but in the whole story, the whole movie would take place not in the jury room, but it would take place in the courtroom, and the jury would be sitting there asking questions to the prosecution and to the defense, because you can do that. You can give the jury instructions to say you have the right to ask any questions of any witness that takes the stand. And then with a jury that's empowered like that, then they can really do what they need to do, in my personal opinion. They have no bounds. They do actually become the proper, I was about to say surety of the realm, but that's technically a grand jury. But
I would imagine most judges would quash that shit pretty hardcore. No,
they wouldn't actually. Strangely enough, most of them probably would. But the funny thing is I heard about that, a judge actually doing this in New York not all that long ago. I want to say maybe it was last year, maybe the year before that. And I'm like, well, there it is. Like, he's letting the jury come up with their own questions for anybody who takes the stand. Now, was the case being run fully as, did somebody demand a general verdict? I don't know. I never looked up the case. I just saw the news story about it that said judge allows jury to question witnesses or something like that. And I'm like, huh. And I read the thing, and it was fairly short synopsis, but the judge had instructed the jury that they could do this and allowed them to do it. And some interesting things, I guess, happened. And I don't know how the outcome was, but anytime that you let the jury loose like that, hell, all kinds of shit can happen that you wouldn't really expect, because then it's 12 people coming up with questions, not just one. And it's not prearranged questions either. You don't know what direction this is coming at you from, because there's 12 different people that are coming up with it immediately. That's a real quick way to get to the truth, let's put it that way. A jury, a number of freeholders selected in the manner prescribed by law, impaneled and sworn to inquire into and try any matter of fact, and to declare the truth and the evidence given them in the case. Grand juries consist usually of 24, it should be 25, freeholders at least, and are summoned to try matters alleged in indictments. Yep. Petite juries, consisting usually of 12 men, attend courts to try matters of fact in civil causes and to decide both the law and the fact in criminal prosecutions. Ding, ding, ding. The decision of a petite jury is called a verdict. So right in there, Webster's 1828 didn't even say specifically that when a general verdict is demanded, that the jury decide both the law and the facts in criminal prosecutions. No, it just flat out said. It didn't even differentiate. It just flat out said, and to decide both the law and the facts in criminal prosecutions, period. So there it is. That is a court of record. That's what happens in a general verdict. That is not, however, what happens in these inferior courts, not of record, that are run by equity procedure. Not in the least bit, because they are all done by contract. They are what's called a nisi prius court. A nisi prius court is a court by prior contract. Anybody want us to look that one up? Very important term to understand. When you walk into these inferior courts, they are called nisi prius courts, which is a court of previous agreement by contract. And that's how they get you, because you've already agreed in some bloody contract somewhere that said you will do XYZ or agree to be subject to XYZ. Again, it's all about the will. It's all about contract and what you consent to. And our greatest goal is to consent to nothing, to ask for nothing, to be self-reliant, self-aware, self-governing, and together muster our own self-defense for our own sovereignty. And with that, I think we'll call it a night. Come up to an hour. This has been the Vocational Science of Freedom Wednesday night open round table. And next time, we will see you on Saturday when we will continue our reading of The Great Taking on the Vocational Science of Freedom Saturday Night Civics and Sovereignty class. So I hope all of you have a wonderful week, whatever you may be doing. And until next time, stay safe and stay sovereign.